North Carolina State 174-pounder, Hayden Hidlay here. Got the NCAA champions behind you on this wall. It says who's next. It's going to take for you to be the guy in that spot to your left there.
It's going to take a lot, and I know that. But I think at the very end, like Saturday night when the lights are on, what it's going to take is me believing in my wrestling to the fullest self, like knowing that I have what it takes and knowing that I don't really need a whole lot else to compete. Like I know I've been tested in the biggest stages so far and I've come up short. I know I have what it takes to get there. It's just finding that last bit of juice, to get a takedown or, just relying on my defense and letting things open up. I think I have what it takes to be able to win a match like that. It's just going to be putting all that together at the same time and making sure I'm not trying to be too basic and having some freedom, which I think was my biggest improvement over this last offseason. I felt like I've got a lot of weight off my chest with this whole weight cut. I've added a lot to my offensive arsenal, and so now I feel like I'm in a position where I can be more free out there on the mat.
So you're talking about like that 20-second sequence against Teamer, I think it was, where
Braden Lee, maybe.
Yeah, Braden Lee. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, so I think that was at a point where I was like, it's the last day of NCAAs. I already lost the night before in the semis. I lose in the wrestlebacks and get kind of embarrassed by Teamer. And at that point, I was like, the fifth place match, I said, screw it. I'm just doing whatever. Like at this point, if I lose, who's going to care? And so that was kind of like a sneak peek of what I feel like I can wrestle like, with a lot of energy, throwing a little bit more caution to the wind, which I think in the past has been that's kind of brought me down in some matches. I've been a little bit too cautious and too reliant on what's made me great, where maybe a lot of people don't realize that I can do a lot more things, and I don't always have to rely on an underhook. I don't always have to rely on my defense. If I can open up a little bit more, I feel like I'm going to be better suited. And as I jumped up 2 weight classes, I feel like my athleticism I feel like I haven't limited myself. I feel like I'm healthier and just more athletic. A lot of people talk about when you gain weight, you start to lose some flexibility. If anything, I feel like I've gained some, just because I don't have to focus so much on the weight cut and so much on the cardio of this sport. I can spend a lot more time doing other things. That's definitely helped. My just the time that I put into like stuff like speed and agility or just stretching has gone way up since I stopped cutting weight, because as an athlete you have to manage your time, and I feel like whenever I was down at 57, I'd spend so much time, running and just making sure I'm in striking distance. And now that I don't have to do that, I've got a lot of windows where I can go to some other things and enjoy that quite a bit more.
When you come out of last season, do you know you're going up right away?
Yeah, I knew about halfway through the season last year that the only way I was going to come back is if I got to go up, substantially in weight. And I talked with Pat about it, and he's like, whatever it takes. I think like Daniel Bullard wasn't going to come back, and so that opened up a spot at 174. And I think especially the way the year ended, I was really disappointed in how it finished. I feel like I had been wrestling well. I lose to a really great wrestler in David Carr, and then just kind of in the backside, just things fell apart pretty quickly. It was like, I feel like now is just the time to just forget about all this, have a fresh slate, and you've got this freedom year that people are calling, and why not, really just take the most freedom you can with it. And I feel like mentally that's been a huge just kind of weight lifted off of me, is not only going up in weight and just not worrying about the weight cut, having a perspective of like, listen, I tried as hard as I could for 4 years to reach the top of the podium, and I didn't get it. So, take some risks now to see if you can actually do it. Why limit yourself to doing it in the same way that hasn't gotten you, better results? And one of the big reasons why I did it was like, I feel like I'm getting better at wrestling, but my results aren't. So, like, I'm in a position where I can take some risks now and go up 2 weight classes and, really just like lay all the cards out on the table and see what happens. That's kind of where I am right now. And that, like, hearing myself say that's different, because everything in my career has been so calculated. Like the way I wrestle, very calculated, like basic, stay really defensive and get to your position where I'm really good offensively. And now I feel like I have a little bit more freedom where I can, make some more mistakes, but, add a lot to my arsenal.
Were you planning on leaning towards coming back the whole time, or was there some uncertainty there? I mean, I seem to remember, like, maybe your quotes coming out of the NCAA championships last year, maybe sort of indicating that you were leaning towards just moving on towards maybe freestyle, but was that the case, or were...
I think I flip-flopped a little bit during the season, quite a bit, and I at like beginning of the year, starting it up, I was like, I don't know how in the world I'm going to be able to do this for another year, and then I go through the season, and I see how much joy I get out of being on the team and like wrestling with these guys and leading these guys, and then I was like, I can still do this for another year, but the circumstances have to be quite a bit different. I think last year, like, it saved me that it was like a condensed season, because I don't know if I would have been able to make more like weigh-ins. Like, I mean, like, I always was like fine making weight. It's just, it takes a lot. It took a lot of energy for me to do that, and doing that for a long period of time would have been pretty tough. And so I think this year I'll wrestle more than I did last year, but it'll still be pretty structured. Of like, sometime I'm probably not gonna wrestle 30 matches this year. It'll be closer to 16, 20 or something like that. So like, whenever I got like those conversations started with the coaches, I think we were able to come to an agreement of like, I'll come back and jump up 2 weight classes. Training will be a little bit different, more like kind of structured like I'm an RTC athlete. I think everything's worked out really well with that. I've taken off like a little bit of my training. I haven't gone as hard, and like it's been more about preserving my body, which has helped quite a bit, and I feel like I've enjoyed practices much more since I've been able to do that. 74's gotten pretty deep all of a sudden. Yeah, and so like I joke about it as like I made this decision and I didn't really think about who was there, and that didn't have any really play in like this like move up. And I didn't do myself any favors with the weight class that I chose. And I think the cool thing about it is, like, if I can go through with this and I have the best year that I've ever had and I'm able to win, like, that's entering like legendary status. And I'm very like grounded with myself and like know that that's not a guarantee. Like, I know how hard this sport is and how good guys are, that I'm just focusing on trying to enjoy every match and enjoy every step of the way with my team. But I don't like look at the people that are in this weight class and like fear like, wow, I got myself into this like absolute grinder of a weight class. I'm thinking like, wow, if I can succeed in this weight class, that'd be pretty badass. And so like, not only in the weight nationally, but like having Micaiah Lewis in your conference, where like possibly I could see him 3 to 4 times this year. That's a challenge that I like look to embrace, and I enjoy the fact that we're going to be fighting for that. And I think like just the mentality change over this year has definitely played a lot of that into that. Like, I don't worry too much about things like that anymore. I know that when you go to the national tournament, you have to win 5 really hard matches, and there's plenty of really hard matches that I'm going to have to win this year. But I think it's pretty cool that it's going to be like a challenge of all challenges, and if that's the way it finishes out, then I'm really happy to do that.
How plugged in are you on the history? I mean, you look behind you and there's obviously Gwiz and Mike pretty well, but how plugged in are you on the other guys that are up on the wall here and what they've accomplished? Is that something you're in tune with?
Yeah, no, I've actually spoken with a lot of these guys. Obviously, Tab Thacker has passed away, but I think like annual golf outing and some alumni stuff, I've been able to meet every one of these guys, and it's very cool how we are able to get those guys together. They're all kind of Guzzos guys, and just learning from them, and just they are so proud of how far this program has come, and I think just like being able to share stories with them is a really cool thing. And obviously when you walk into the room, you get to see these guys, and it's like, yeah, I still want to do that. Like, no matter how many times I say like my mentality shifted to just enjoy every process, I still look at these guys before I go in the room every day and be like, I still want that. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't come back for another year to chase another one of those things. And so it's obviously really cool seeing Mock and Gwiz. And I know Darion quite a bit. I've been able to wrestle with him and practice with him at times. But a lot of the other guys, I see him on like kind of year-by-year basis. But it's definitely cool to be part of this NC State Brotherhood. And would certainly be really cool to get up on the wall. I know my younger brother is going to be up on the wall soon. Like, that's just one thing that I know, and I've got one more shot at it. So it would be obviously it'd be in my wildest dreams to get up there, but it's still cool to be a part of all this.
Going up to 74, did you have to build into it at all, or did, a couple weeks, are you right there after NCAAs?
Yeah. I mean, I did have to, like, there was some work that needed to be done. I didn't want to just show up and, like, weigh, like, 175, 176 and, like, I don't know, do one workout and get up. Like, I set a goal where I wanted to get up to, like, 181, 82 and cut down from there. And so I've been able to do that. I've been in the low 80s, which is good. I still feel like I can add a few more pounds on, and it wouldn't be an issue at all. I'm losing more weight now when I'm training, and I just didn't want to have to go through the period where, like, if I'm 5 days out, I don't want to be, like, cutting weight. It's like, I don't think I need that at this point in my career. But I would say, like, after NCAAs, I got up to mid-70s, and I was at a really good spot. Like, I wasn't like ballooned up or anything like that. I just knew if I could put on, like 7 to 10 pounds of good weight, then I'd be in a good position. And it was just so easy because, like, in previous years, I had spent so much time doing cardio and running. Like, there's probably times in the summer where I was running upwards of like 20 miles a week just to stay in that striking distance, making sure it didn't get out of control where I could get back down to 57. And now that I didn't have to do that, I could fill more time with, just like increasing my athleticism, increasing my wrestling knowledge, working more things in the room. And, whenever I'm in that kind of state, I can gain weight, easier and, focus on the nutrition of it rather than, making sure I'm in striking distance at 157. That wasn't always very fun.
What's your weight long term? You get into freestyle.
I kind of like 79. I really did like that. And obviously, if I have to cut down to 74, I don't think that's a big issue for me. I can still do that. It's obviously not ideal, but in freestyle, you don't have to do it all like every week. And so I like 79. Like, when I wrestled at 79 at trials, I got tested with the best in the world, and I feel like the weight wasn't like, there wasn't like, I can't say like I lost because of the weight. I feel like I was fine for the weight, and like that was really like comforting to me because I made this big jump and this big risk, and what if I go out on the mat and I'm just like not my normal self? But like, I really did feel like I was like my normal self out there. I just felt better. I didn't have to worry about the whole process of cutting a bunch to get there. And so like long term, I don't know. I'm focused on like this year. I don't know how longer I really want to wrestle. I'm enjoying it right now, and I think that's all that really matters. But I like 79 kilos. I like 174. I think that's a pretty good spot for me.
Obviously, you've probably been watching Burroughs for ages.
Yep.
What was it like getting your hands on him? What'd you learn about him, getting your hands on him for the first time in a match?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the challenge of it. I think that the funniest part about all of this is just the way that the bracket's set up. And I woke up that morning of trials, and I had Taylor Luan in the first round, and then they redrew the bracket, and I had Deeringer. And then after I got done warming up, they redrew the bracket again, and I had Burroughs. And so I was like, are you serious? Like, it just incrementally kind of got worse. But like at that point, I just found it so comical that I was like, why not just do it? It's the first round of trials. I have literally nothing to lose, and just wrestle the best match you can, and like believe in yourself the most that you can. And so, like, I knew like style wise, it was like, kind of polar opposites, and so I knew I could stay in the match because of that. Like, I knew like my underhooks were good enough to shut down some of his stuff, and like the first period, I actually was able to score, just kind of getting into an underhook, getting to an arm spin, and then like as the match progressively went on, like his speed just like seemed to uptick, and his pace upticked, and I think I went in just like trying to shut down a double so much, and like the one thing that I learned from him is that his single leg is just as good. It's just a lot of people don't like. His like double is so impactful and so iconic that like people forget like his single is just as good. And so like I learned a lot from that. Not like, yeah, I might have defended some of his doubles, but off of that came him just kind of getting quick to the corner, and I was pretty amazed by that. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a very cool experience for me to learn that, just being in a competitive match. Like, it would have been much different. I went out there and got blown out of the waters. But, like, to me, that at least proved that, you know, I still have a lot of great wrestling left in me, and I can do it against literally the best in the world. Like, there's nobody that's better than him. And so I think it's like you know, they kind of just drop you like in like the craziest situation you can to figure out this new way, figure out this new style, like a new, like this fresh start that I wanted to deal with. And then it's like, all right, you want this fresh start, you want this new way, wrestle him first. And so that was pretty eye-opening and jarring, and obviously I didn't win, but I mean, I took a lot of positives from it. I feel like that's the only thing you can do. Like, if you can score on them, if you can keep it somewhat close, like, why not walk away with some positives from that?
This program much more entrenched in that upper echelon than when you arrived. You were starting to get there at that point. What drew you to North Carolina State in the first place? What do you think this program could become, and what attracted you here?
So, like, the first real memory I have of this was of this program. Like, I knew of Gwiz, and I knew that he was a really good wrestler, but I didn't know anything about NC State wrestling as a whole. And the first NCAA championship I ever went to, I went with my dad when I was a sophomore in high school in Oklahoma City. And I want to say that was probably the 2014, maybe.
Yep.
But go there, and that was when Gwiz beat Tony Nelson for his first NCAA title, and I just saw how, like, I feel like everybody doubted him at that stage. Like, him beating Nelson was a pretty big upset, I feel like, and just watching him celebrate and how big of a deal it was for him and for Pat and for this program, then they caught my attention. Then I was like, wow, they must be doing something right. And then the next year they, you know, come back, and you know, guys like Tommy that improved and the team improved, and then like the years just keep coming, and like they go on the road to beat Iowa, go on the road to beat Oklahoma State, and I knew that they were building something really great. Like, they might not be a blue chip program, but they're for sure going to be someday. And like, I wanted to put my faith in somebody that put their faith in me, and from the start, you know, Pat and Frank Beasley, Obi, Adam Hall, you know, they all said that I could compete like with the best of them here, and we can build something very special. And I trusted them, and obviously it's came true. And I feel like we're knocking on the door to be one of those kind of top 3, top 4 teams. And in this sport, that's a really hard thing to do. And you look back at the history of NCAA finishes, it's dominated by 3 schools. And it's hard to break through that. And I wanted to, you know, maybe we don't do that yet by the time I finish, but I wanted to set the grounds for it. And I feel like the guys that we have coming up through are going to be able to do that. And especially, you know, we're recruiting even better as the years go on. I feel like this next class that we're bringing in could be the #1 class in the country, and I feel like what I've done in my not like 6 years here has helped out with that. And you know, we're knocking on the door. We obviously want to get team trophies, and we want to compete with the Penn States, Iowas, Oklahoma States, but we're in position to keep doing that. You know, we definitely haven't taken a step back, which is great news. And I knew that could happen. I just looked at how much vision Pat had and how important it was for these guys. And like, you see it the first time you come into this room. Like, me as a high school kid, I saw guys that were willing to fight for that, and guys that were willing to fight to get out of, you know, where they started. And you know, where Pat started wasn't too great here at NC State, and just you can see the incremental progress that has been put here. And I never lost faith in that. I still have a lot of faith that it's going to keep continuing to get better.
How have you seen things evolve inside this room? I mean, we see it on the outside in competition, but how have things changed in the room from day one when you step in there for the first time to now?
The depth has gotten way much better. Like our depth in terms of like guys that are second string and third string can compete on, you know, plenty of Division I teams, and are probably could be national qualifiers. Like, if you look at the best teams in the country, they have that. Like, they've got 2 or 3 deep of guys that can make the national tournament. And I feel like we've gotten so much better at that since my first year here. And I think that's the test of a great program is, you know, if you want to talk about culture, that's what we want to make our most important thing, then we need to have a culture of however 30 some guys in that room that in their head, they want to be out there on Saturday night. I don't think there's anybody that joins this program just so they can say they want to be a backup at NC State. Like, that just doesn't happen. I don't think there's a lot of people at Iowa or Oklahoma State that want to do that. So why would they want to do that here? Like, that's the kind of like culture that we want to have. Is even though some of these guys will never wrestle a starting dual match for us, they are still good enough to wrestle other places, and that makes our starters way better. That's one thing that I've noticed over the past few years is the guys that we've brought in have been really good, and some guys they don't get to see the time. Like in terms of the starting lineup, not because they're not good enough, it's just because our team has gotten better and we've added more depth to our program. And I think that's a true testament to a really great program. And I'm certainly lucky for that. I've been blessed with incredible partners and guys that I know would be able to compete other places, but they love the culture here. They love that kind of attitude of, we're going to be us, and I think we believe in that. And so depth, that's the number one thing, and it's continuing to get better.